rebels and troublemakers to stand out. Marginalized with voices making us so proud. For identity in the industry, we all shout. So many women empowered making their own.
As an industry veteran who worked his way up, Ben Watkins' decades-long career is marked by commitment to quality storytelling and dedication to community service. And Ben Watkins Blue Monday, which was the first organization to ever donate to Women of Color Unite. Thank you for believing in Women of Color Unite and me.
Charger for speaking up, left behind speeding up, passing not even enough. Needed no introduction, but she got a theme song.
Hey, everybody.
How's everybody doing?
We are going to get started just because I know, Ben, you are on a tight schedule. So first of all, I really appreciate Ben being here and Mary C. Curtis. So for those who don't know, she is actually my aunt and my godmommy. So I'm going to read both intros. Then everybody sit back because we're going to watch the opening to Cross, and then Mary will get started. So my aunt, Mary C. Curtis, a columnist at Roll Call, is an award-winning journalist, podcast host, and educator based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Washington, D.C. She is the host of the CQ Roll Call podcast, Equal Time with Mary C. Curtis. Her coverage specialty is the intersection of politics, culture, and race, and Mary has covered presidential campaigns since 2008. She talks politics and culture on NPR affiliate WFAE in Charlotte and has contributed to NBC News, NPR, The Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN, The Root, ESPN, and more. She has worked at the New York Times, the Charlotte Observer, the Baltimore Sun, and the Associated Press, and was national correspondent for AOL's Politics Daily. Curtis is a senior facilitator with the Op-Ed Project, which increases the range of voices and opinion writing, facilitating, quote, right to change the world, end quote, seminars at Yale University, Cornell, and the Ford Foundation, and at the Aspen New Voices Fellowship in Johannesburg, South Africa. Curtis was a Nieman Fellow at Harvard University and a Kipling Fellow in Social Media at Ohio State. She was chosen to be included in the History Makers, the single largest archival collection of its kind in the world, designed to promote and celebrate the successes and to document movements, events, and organizations that are important to the African American community and to American society. It is available digitally and permanently archived in the Library of Congress. Now, for my aunt's awards. Her honors include Clarion Awards from the Association for Women in Communications, awards from the National Headliners, the Society of Professional Journalists, and the National Federation of Press Women, 4 First Place Salute to Excellence Awards from the National Association of Black Journalists, 5 First Place SBJDC Dateline Awards, and the Thomas Wolfe Award for an examination of Confederate heritage groups. In 2022, she received the Ernie Pyle Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Society of Newspaper Columnists. Curtis has contributed to several books, including essays in We Refuse to Be Silent, Women's Voices for Justice for Black Men, Now What? The Voters Have Spoken Essays on Life After Trump, Coverage, Politics in the Age of Trump, and Love Her Not, The Hillary Paradox. She will be interviewing my friend, Ben Watkins. As an industry veteran who worked his way up, Ben Watkins' decades-long career is marked by commitment to quality storytelling and dedication to community service. He is the creator and executive producer of Cross, the award-winning drama on Prime Video, the complex, twisted thriller based on the global best-selling Alex Cross book series by James Patterson, premiered as the #1 series on Prime Video worldwide. The second season of Cross will premiere on Wednesday, February 11th. In addition to debuting to blockbuster viewership as the platform's 3rd most watched premiere of the year, the series is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, with critics praising its intricate, layered writing and graceful cross-examination of the anguish of grief, toxic masculinity, and what it means to be a Black man in law enforcement today. Watkins is a showrunner and executive producer of the upcoming Prime Video series, The Greatest, the first ever authorized scripted series about the life of Muhammad Ali. The amazing victories and defeats that made Ali a legend, both in and out of the ring, have well been documented, while those landmark events will be seen in The Greatest. The heartbeat of the story is fueled by the moments that took place outside of the spotlight. Alongside his wife, Candy, Watkins is the founder of Blue Monday Productions. In addition to Cross and The Greatest, Blue Monday has a significant slate of upcoming projects in development. Their Breakthrough Artist Program, a 3-month paid apprenticeship for writing, producing, and/or directing, focuses on increasing access and accelerating the learning curve for artists who have demonstrated exceptional talent, a commitment to community, and giving back. Previously, Watkins created and served as executive producer for Hand of God, Amazon, and executive producer for Burn Notice, USA, Truth Be Told, Apple, and Wu-Tang and American Saga, Hulu. An industry vet hailing from Berkeley, this prolific showrunner started his career as an actor playing Dr. Wesley Carter on The Young and the Restless. His first foray into writing was the short film Quest of Breath, which he wrote, co-directed, and starred in. The film won the American Black Film Festival and was an official Sundance Film Festival selection. FYI, I was there with him that Sundance. Watkins actively supports community programs and people working in and around civil rights, public education, and homelessness. He is a founding member of Sweat Equity Alliance, a community activist organization in the South Bay, and recently joined the board of directors for Friends of Allensworth, the first town in California to be founded, financed, and governed by African Americans. He is also active within the WGA, serving on several committees, and as a core member of the Showrunners Training Program. He resides in Los Angeles. I want to take a moment to thank both Mary, who sits on the board of Women of Color Unite, and Ben Watkins, Blue Monday, which was the first organization to ever donate to Women of Color Unite. Thank you, both of you, for joining me and Nicci Freeman. Thank you for believing in Women of Color Unite and me. Okay, everybody sit back. We're going to play your infamous 3 minutes Black man with big dick scene. Here we go.
Hello, Richard.
You the doctor?
Yeah, technically, yes. PhD, psychology.
Do you know what they call the black man with a PhD?
I know what you can call me. Detective Alex Cross.
Okay. Let's see how long you last.
You ever hear the phrase free chicken? It's a military term about an objective you can take without having to work for it. Like you.
Go ask the last monkey who was in here about your free chicken.
You think you're smarter than Detective Akbar, don't you?
Check the tapes.
You think you're smarter than me.
Oh, well, that goes without saying. It's just, it's a matter of genetics.
All right, genetics. Same reason my dick is bigger than yours.
What did he just say?
What did you say?
My penis is larger than yours. Goes without saying, right?
Get your dick out of my fucking face.
You see how easy that was? I see your kind in here like 4 or 5
My
times.
kind?
Yeah. Racist asshole thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. I use some variation of my dick's bigger than yours to get in your head. It works every time. Free chicken.
I didn't fall for anything.
No? You sure? Your eyes tighten. Your neck's flushed. Even now you gritting your teeth. Those are all tells. Any nigga with a PhD in psychology would know that. Oh, you thought you were special.
You're not in my head, boy. And you're not getting a confession.
Oh, I'm definitely living rent-free. And you already confessed. I'm just amusing myself right now.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, you did. a life's fitful fever. Yeah, I caught that. It's Macbeth, right? It's the affliction caused by the burden of guilt. You said that's what's making you sick. That's a confession on tape. Free chicken.
Well, good luck getting a conviction with that.
Already checked with the DA. She's ready to file. And hey, this is DC, Slim. You might not even see your arraignments. Not without protective custody. Did you want to talk about PC?
And with that, I turn it over to Mary C. Curtis.
Well, thank you. You certainly did give me something to follow. Well, it's so nice to meet you, Ben, and may I call you Ben?
Yes, please. Great to meet you.
Yeah, you leaned into one stereotype there and you busted another one, shattered another one wide open. Well, as Cheryl said, I cover the intersection of politics, culture, and race. And you are, of course, you created Cross, the hit series. You're also working on The Greatest, an 8-part series about Muhammad Ali, elevating the lives, the nuance of personalities of African Americans, African American men. And it's all happening when the news is breaking that the current administration is reviewing the content of Smithsonian museums, including the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And there are attempts to erase our heroes and our history in the name of removing divisive concepts. So, Ben, is part of your vision when you choose your projects to not only entertain, but also to illuminate and tell stories that need to be told with nuance and humanity?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the short answer is yes, absolutely. And it's a little in the deeper part of it is, storytelling in general. I'm really going towards, what am I inspired by? What am I attracted to? Whether it's an original idea I come up with, or in this case, it's an IP, a book series that is already existing. Do I think there's something that I can do with it that will keep me inspired and invested and let me bring something to the table? Well, once I sign on to something, though, or once I endeavor to do something, I do feel like there is a responsibility to expand perspectives and and have some commentary, even being careful about being over the top or preachy, but have some commentary about our place and time. And so with a project like Cross, that was definitely on my mind. The fraught relationship between the Black community and law enforcement is just an easy one to see. Is like it's a lightning rod thing. It's very controversial. It's something that a lot of people try to tiptoe around. And I felt like I could really advance that conversation while still doing a really focused serial killer show that isn't a character exploration. But I also think about it in these terms. I think that, and it's partly a reaction to the way that people of color get distorted or suppressed and have been over time. I think that every chance we get to center Black stories or any stories of people of color or underrepresented people in this country and really globally, we should also be looking for ways to contribute to what I call mythology building. And so I actually use that as one of my goals too. I don't know if I always pull it off, but I definitely use it as a goal. And I really think, from myself as a kid, when I was, being taught all these myths, true or not, about white folks, there weren't a lot coming our way about Black folks. And so I'm thinking, if I get a bite at the apple, I don't want to just tell the story and have a successful, detective series. I want to build out some mythology here that really represents something more.
Yeah. Well, you've talked about the characters in Cross being relatable to viewers. And how do you strive to achieve that? And can you describe a little bit the collaboration between you and the actors on the show when developing how these characters would be portrayed? But you've said that Aldis Hodge
Mm-hmm.
is a natural fit. I've talked to a lot of fans, particularly women who feel he's a natural fit for many things, but but talk about how you collaborate with your actors.
I try to there's a lot of talented actors out there. So, one of the things that I really do is make sure that I get to know the actors, especially for key roles, because they're going to have to live with those characters. And the more they have some of the natural characteristics that I'm looking for in that character, then the more confident I am they'll be able to carry it on for hopefully multiple seasons. So, one is just really getting to know them. And then, two is, I'd have a conversation with anyone that I'm about to get into business with, and I say there's two things I want to do. One is I want to showcase what you bring to the table, and two is I want to push the envelope into places that you're not comfortable with. So we have to really come to trust each other, and that's how. And if they are willing to do that, especially that second part, which can be scary, then I know we have a chance to do something special. Now, with making people relatable, I think it really is just, being careful, especially when you have heroic characters. It's really being careful to make sure that they have really human qualities that include flaws and fears, and baggage, because people, I think, can relate to that. If you don't do that, you run the risk of them just admiring your characters as opposed to relating to them.
Yeah, and African Americans have had to show strength. And it's kind of tricky when you have to show that strong characters have their insecurities and their own anxieties and are still struggling themselves. So that's kind of a balance, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's you want, and especially when you think about the Black community and not having a lot of characters out there and front and center, then you want to be careful. You could easily run the risk of trying to minimize some of the things that would be seen as flaws, or that detract from a heroic character. But I think the irony is when you lean into that, you make that person, especially when they overcome challenges or they have some flaws that people can relate to, that then the people get in and see them more as real people they can relate to, and then when they pull off heroic things, they actually are admirable.
Yeah, now I've seen my niece Cheryl's triumphs and her struggles, because you work hard, but there's frustration in this industry when you feel you're being held to a different standard or judged differently. So when you're looking to these anxieties of the character, do you at all reach into your own experience? Because folks who are listening in might be interested in how you broke through and continue to break through obstacles that you may have faced, because it's a different game for Black folk in Hollywood. And what did it take to maintain and excel? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always going to mind my life and my, the life of the people around me, as much as I can. And definitely felt like I was able to do that in this show. It's tough in this business. You think about, talent is not always going to be enough. And that is frustrating. Talent and hard work and perseverance and passion. And you do everything that everyone says you should do. Then you step into rooms and you're barely getting a chance at anything. And you step into rooms and you're seeing folks who aren't working as hard as you and haven't churned out the work product that you have or at the quality you have, and they're getting more chances or they're getting accelerated careers. And I think for me, the first thing I did was I just, took away the power of the industry. I just said, number one, I'm not asking for permission. Number two, this industry doesn't determine whether I'm an artist or not. So I'm going to just lean into what I do and do well. And as long as I feel like I'm being rewarded, then I will never let them trick me into thinking that I need to score points in Hollywood in order to be validated as an artist. So that was one of the big things that sort of changed my trajectory in Hollywood. I started to take take matters into my own hand. And I also just embraced the possibility that I might not ever get, the classic, Hollywood career. And I was fine with that because I realized I didn't come here to, just get a check. Now, once I found my foot in the door, then I definitely said, I got to do something here. I got to learn this game and try to carve out more space and try to speed up my learning curve, because I consider most folks who are underrepresented, and if you talk about people of color and women, people with disabilities, LGBTQ, there's a lot of people who get discriminated against in this business. And when they do start to get some traction, it may be years after they would have if they were, say, a white man. And so then to me, that means we got to speed up the learning curve so that we can make up for lost time.
Yeah, and folks might be interested to know, not just in front of the camera, you have that goal and vision behind the camera a bit. Talk a little bit about how you involve a diverse crew, directors, other folks in Cross and in Blue Monday.
Oh yeah, I'll really make a point of it. I have my own, sort of views in terms of what I think, the world and the industry, how it operates the best. And one of those is I think that is representation, and people being able to bring their voices to it. And for my purposes, if I'm in a writer's room, the more varied the voices, the better. So we're just talking about forget making up for the discrimination. We're just talking about having better quality shows. We're just talking about having access to more talent when we expand the pools from which we're drawing from. So I'm a big proponent of that. I call it balanced rooms because to me, I'm balancing out, giving balance to the room and representing the real world out there. And so we have, basically policies in place that is a priority. And then when we get to production, if we're, fortunate enough to get a show greenlit, then we're bringing that same mentality to the production side. And everyone who works with us has to know a couple of things. Number one, we need representation for the crew. We need representation in terms of directors. We need to see that fabric that really represents the real world to me. And then because the pipelines aren't in place, we have to do more than just, put out a one ad. You have to actually go searching for the right people. And if that pool doesn't exist, literally just had this conversation with someone on my team coming off of the greatest, where I felt like their department didn't have enough balance, and they were telling me how hard it is to find folks. And I said, now you need to manufacture them then, right? You got to actually hire people that you can mentor. And that means your job is harder early in the season, but hopefully halfway through, you now have a valuable piece of this linkage that will continue and pay dividends for years to come. But if you don't bring them in, then we can't even nurture it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the greatest, I saw a beautiful photo of you with Nnani Ali, the widow of Muhammad Ali, in his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. So it's being filmed in Toronto or in Canada, different parts. You're showrunner, executive producer, director, his first authorized scripted series, and working alongside Michael B. Jordan, his banner. He's an icon. He's famous, although some of the younger generation might not know him as much. So tell me, how difficult was it, and how did you find parts of his story that we don't know, or nuance around events that we do know all about? What kind of challenge was that?
That was part of it. Was really challenging. It's first of all, this is my childhood hero. So the first time they approached me about doing this, I actually said no. And part of it was because I didn't want anything to get made that I wouldn't be proud of, and I wasn't sure how committed folks would be to doing it. And then second, I was scared. But when I finally signed on and started really exploring it, I was immediately started acquainting myself with Muhammad Ali differently because I'm doing all this research. And the research was opening my eyes up to the fact that he's not an icon. He's not just a hero. He is a person. And I think that is what I saw as like the opportunity here. Most of us who become acquainted with Muhammad Ali, even if we're old enough that he was, around and prominent during our upbringing, we still see him as a fully formed icon. We don't really look at him as like a kid who had questions and didn't know if he was going to make it and had problems at home and was still figuring things out about himself and the age and the time that he was living in. And so I decided to lean into that piece. And I literally told the writer's room, anything that you've seen in the documentary won't be in this show. And I said that knowing it was an exaggeration because, of course, we're going to hit the highlights of his life and career. But I wanted our focus to be all the in-between moments in the connective tissue. And once I started doing that, you can see it in some of the books. You can see what's implied. You can see what's hinted at. And then I just started to expand on that. But I also had the opportunity, especially thanks to Nnani, to really talk to people who were close to him. And so I would just pull on a little thread, and they weren't used to people pulling on those threads. So, for example, there's a really prominent storyline about him and his relationship with his father. And that doesn't get talked about a lot and hasn't been mentioned a lot, even in writing. But when I pulled on that thread, it opened the door to a really core piece of his formation. There's another perfect example of, I found out that the lawyer who oversaw the signing of his first contract was a woman by the name of Alberta Jones, who was the first woman to be accepted to the bar in Kentucky, or the first Black woman. And she was a civil rights activist who they approached in the community and said, hey, can you overlook this contract? No one's talking about that, but I find a picture of her. I'm saying, who is this? Oh, that was his lawyer. So instead of doing a typical, scenes that are just all about the Louisville sponsorship group, which was the group of white men that signed him and helped launch the beginning of his career, and the thing you might expect, we actually do a whole examination of Alberta Jones. And how did she get involved and why was she important? And we use her as an example of a brick that went into place that was part of his foundation that made him become the person that he did. And we do that all throughout. And there's a lot of that in this story. So you get to see him much more human. I basically said, I want to disconnect you from the icon and introduce you to the kid and then watch him come of age.
Yeah, it sounds like with 8 episodes, you can really get into the family. A lot of people don't know his brother was a boxer and what he was like. He was a father of many. So you really get a chance to do that. Well, the way you talked about getting the perfect actor for Cross, it's anybody who's going to play Muhammad Ali is taking on a really big because people do have an idea of who he was.
That's right.
How was that like? And did you find someone? Who did you find? And how did that work out? And are you pleased with, someone who was going to represent? Talk a little about that.
Yeah, I could not be happier with the actor we found to play Cassius Clay. And the first season is just 1960 to 1964. And we start with him winning the gold medal at 18, and then he wins the heavyweight belt at 22. So it really gives us a chance to focus on the little moments. But again, going with this idea, this is the most photographed man in the history of the world. So even if you aren't fully aware of him, you've seen his image. And a lot of people know him. So it's going to be a tough task for somebody to step into those shoes. And I talked with our casting director. I said, I obviously somebody who favors him is great, but that's not going to be mandatory. I need somebody who can capture the essence. And I need, I looked for a few things. I said, here's a few, qualities that will help me just knowing what I was planning to explore story-wise. I said, I need him to be from the South if possible, because there's a certain lilt to the voice that I would like to be built in, but also there's a certain way of coming up in the South and things that get passed on I need to be accessible to whoever's playing this in an ideal world. I said, I need them to have some sort of athletic background because there's going to be extensive training in boxing. And then I said, I need them to have daddy issues, which obviously you can't ask somebody. You can't ask somebody when they come in to audition if they got daddy issues. But I did find some ways to talk to the young men who made it to the short list. And it was a long search. After about a year and a half, we got it down to 4 young men. And I had a chance at that point to have talked to them multiple times and get to know how their relationship with their fathers were. And I ended up finding someone who epitomized all of that, and had daddy issues, but also looked remarkably like Cassius Clay. Like so much so that you almost say, I don't know if we can cast him. He looks related to him.
Yeah, it's too much on the nose, right?
Yeah. And then when I picked him, I sent him to Louisville to meet Nnani before we made it official. And he meets with Nnani and spends a day with her. And about halfway through that day, I get a text from Nnani Ali, and she says, Ben, he's the one in more ways than you know.
Wow.
And because she said he really just exhibits so many of the characteristics that she had familiar with her late husband. So at that point, I felt like, we couldn't lose, and he really never let us down. I mean, this is a kid who's never been in a big thing, so it's going to be a newcomer.
What's his name?
I'm sorry. His name is Jalen Best, and it's Jaalen Best. He trained for a year to box. I sent him to acting classes for 6 months. He was already a good performer, but we took it to another level. And his work ethic, his look, his overall spirit, it's amazing. Like, this kid is amazing. People come watch him film, and their jaws drop. It just happens over and over again. Yeah.
From your telling me this story and your other stories about your work, the word that comes through is authenticity. You just dig deep. Why? I think this may be a reason why Cross and your other projects have resonated with so many Black folks, broad audiences, of course, but specifically, friendships between Black men, all these things that aren't often seen. Why do you think, and how do you think about the fact that, you've won the NASB Images Awards for your writing, which is intense, really, authentic. What do you feel about that? Is this something you strive for? I know you want to reach the broad audience, but when you meet Black folks who say, you got it, man, I never saw that before, how does that make you feel? And what does it encourage you to do more of?
That's probably the highest compliment that I could receive, and it can happen in the smallest of ways. It could be, we spent time. We could be there's a mailman in a scene, and we spent time, doing research on the unique ways that they, customize the straps and adjust the straps on their mail bag, and it might be one mailman that comes up and is like, that made my day, or that I can't believe y'all spent the time to figure that out. I think little details like that help your show no matter what. Maybe if nothing else, it's just because when you're taking the time to be meticulous and curate, that just has a cumulative effect over time. But when you see the audience start to respond because they feel like they're seeing themselves, they're seeing their relatives, they're seeing the worlds that they live in an authentic way, where it's very gratifying, and to them, they're appreciative. It builds some sort of like loyalty and bond between you and the audience, because even folks who are like, I was gonna like the show anyway. They Cross. They're like, I like crime shows, but the fact that you took time to learn DC lingo, now I'm obsessed. Or now, I'm a fan for life, because we don't get to see that too often. And then when you see facets of people's lives where we're in a crime show, but we're taking time to show Cross at home with his kids. And how he relates as a father, and they've lost their mother, and he's lost his wife to tragedy. And he's not a perfect dad. A lot of folks have come up to me, and said how real that feels in terms of the relationship with him and his daughter, and how grateful they are to have that sort of exhibited on television. And another big one is his relationship with his best friend John Sampson, which is, you know, seeing two black men who love each other, you know, on television. As like me and my best friend, we were in our mid-40s and we knew each other for 30 years before we ever said I love you. You know, and so to represent something like that in an authentic way is, you know, a lot of people appreciate that, and it just gives me more, you know, more fuel when I sit down to write, to make sure that I'm getting the details, I'm putting in the time that are going to make something, you know, put a fine point on something, and so people can see themselves represented.
Yeah. Now, Blue Monday Productions, you created with your wife, Candy. Talk a little bit about being a partner in work and vision with someone who is your partner in life and how that plays out. You've been married for 4 kids, you know, come on.
Yeah. You know, we met freshman year of college. And so we've been together for 37 years, and we've been married for 33 years now. And so to me, you know, we started the company when we got married. We didn't know it, but we started the company when we got married. And all the time that it's always been a joint pursuit. And even when it's me, you know, moving to LA to start acting, there's so many things that I wouldn't have been able to do if she wasn't out there, not only, you know, taking care of our family business, but then also help building me up and help rebuilding me when I took hits. And then when we moved into television and you know, producing, writing, and for television and film, and started actually a production company, it really gave me a chance to really tap into a lot of the qualities that she was already doing part-time, and she could start doing in a much more you know, significant way, from weighing in on casting to hiring to what stories to take, what projects to undertake. And there's nobody whose voice or instincts I trust more. There she is at the premiere for Cross. Yeah, there's nobody whose instincts I trust more than hers. So it really speeds up the process. You know, when you're deliberating, and then the person you trust the most comes in and says, "Here's why I think it should be this one." It just makes you confident in the decision making. And you know, it also can cause some nice little spicy conversations too. You know, when we don't agree on some things, and so you know, that part is always interesting as well, because there's so much passion involved. But it really is, you know, it's an unbeatable combination. And then you get this other piece too, which at this point 3 of our sons have now entered the industry. So, and we have our youngest, our 4th kid, is in college, and there's a good chance that he might pursue this. And you know, I tried to discourage all of them not to get into this business, but now that they're actually in it, I'm the happiest man in the world.
They must have. Well, they love their dad. And let me just add a personal note: those are 2 gorgeous women in that photo. I'm just saying.
Isn't that right? Isn't that right?
So who wins those spicy conversations?
Oh, she's undefeated.
Wow. So, you know, I used to feel, you know, I love culture, and you know, we feel that as a little bit of an escape. Well, it's not an escape from the politics. Everything is political. I mean, even in DC right now, where the show is set, you now have National Guard walking the streets. Are those kinds of events going to make their way into the show, you think?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you said earlier that authenticity, and that was something that I talked about early with Cross, when they asked whether or not it would be prudent for me to have any commentary in terms of the complexity of a Black man being in law enforcement, and also the relationship between the Black community and law enforcement. And I said, you know, if you don't do that, then everybody watching the shows knows you're lying.
Yeah.
Even the people who will tell you that they don't want any politics in these shows, and we see it in the testing sometimes. They'll say, oh, there's too much discussion of race in here. But I'm convinced that even those people ultimately will hold it against you if you lie to them. And definitely our community, we can wave our hands at projects that, are skirting over the issues but they don't hold any weight with us.
Yeah.
So I feel like you have a responsibility to reflect the world around you and do it through the characters. Like, you don't have to preach. I don't need to make shit up. I can do it through the character, and I can have a character that feels a certain way and explore a real, authentic conversation that reflects what's really happening around us in the show. And I think you have to. Otherwise, now you're lying to yourself and your audience.
Yeah, people, you're not in Oz, or fairyland.
That's right.
It's you're in there. How do you see your contribution to this national conversation that I think we're all having now about the intersection of politics, culture, and race?
Yeah, I think in this terms of the storytelling, I think that's where I feel more at ease in having that conversation, because I really am able to have a captive audience, and I really am able to attach issues to characters that you're attached to, that you're committed to, and so you listen to, and they can influence folks. And I think I feel like it's my responsibility to do that. The only thing is, when I do that, I need to have a counterpoint there, and I think there's value to that. But that counterpoint has to be valid enough that it doesn't feel like they're just being set up as a foil. Yeah. So, for example, in Cross, if you watch that show and you listen to some of the conversation, you'll realize that Samson has got a little conservative streak in him.
Yeah.
And Cross is not, but then now Cross is law enforcement. You see him struggling with that. But I could have them have a debate that platforms a lot of what we're talking about, and then do it in a way where people feel like we're having the real conversation, and it's a more nuanced conversation instead of us just taking sides. I think I can also do things where I can hit something that is happening and I can personalize it for people. Because if you take somebody where, now people are following these certain characters around and start to get invested in it, and then we put them into the situations that real people are experiencing right now in this country, it's no longer anonymous. It's no longer theoretical. It's happening to somebody you care about. And now you really got to confront how you feel about it. You also got to ask yourself, what are you doing about it, either to try to stop it or to contribute to it? And I like putting people in that position.
Yeah. Nicci, I know you've been monitoring any comments from folks. If they have any questions, I know Ben has a tight hour and wanted to make sure I included the voices of our listeners. I could go on, but I want to make sure we get to all of their concerns. Do you have anything for us, Nicci?
I do. There's somebody asked, and I'm trying to find it right now. Bellamina asked, what myths do you want to build on Cross?
So the mythology, there are a couple of things we wanted to build on Cross. And the first thing is to have a Black male hero in a solo show that can find some sort of integrity at the intersection of the Black community and the American institution. And one of the reasons that I want to have that be there and hopefully take root is because I think, and I was taught this lesson by an old head back in the day, it was like, we're here and we either stay here and change things or stay here and just talk about it. And so, but I was at a point in my life where I was like, I don't even want to engage in the institutions. And he basically, put that bug in my ears. Like, if I have something valuable to bring that I can, put my finger and tip the scale a little bit, then maybe I have that responsibility. And so I want to create a character where folks see someone being able to make a difference at that intersection, and not just be frustrated and not just, be taking L's all of the time. So I wanted to do that. I also wanted to really put and platform the idea of a Black father, who can be more than just the discipline in the house, and can also be learning how to parent. And I think it's be an eternal student. And so we did that with Cross. And then the third thing I really wanted to be as a priority was the friendship that I mentioned earlier, between the two Black men, who I use them as the core love story in Cross. And it's obviously a platonic love, but we treat it like a love story. And if you go back and watch season 1, you'll see that there are many of the beats in their personal relationship are similar to what you might find in a romantic comedy, which when you get to episode 8, and after a breakup, Cross comes to apologize, and Samson says, "You had me at motherfucking." And that is a nod to the Jerry Maguire, but I think we don't see that enough. And I think that those two men as archetypes are great, but that relationship is also something that I wanted to platform as part of Black mythology. And I'm looking for ways to either show you imagery or give you dialogue that you can recite or remember, the same way somebody can say, I can never tell a lie. And if I say I shall never tell a lie, a lot of people immediately connect that to the imagery of George Washington and a cherry tree, which is some bullshit, but that's mythology.
We have another question from Lisa W. What can you tell us about your experience working with Aldis Hodge?
Man, Aldis Hodge has been a dream come true, better than advertised. I'd seen him multiple times out and about, and had actually been around him because we played in the basketball league when he was a kid. I remember being impressed by his composure and his presence. And then we had mutual friends who had worked with him, and they always had glowing reports on him. So I knew I was getting in the room with somebody that was quality. But his willingness to really get pushed and go to places, the vulnerability and his ability to just carry a season where he's in almost every scene with so much grace and stamina and range, it really was more than I expected. He's just an amazing person, and to me, this is him. This is his time right now. I feel like he has been turning in great performances for a while, and I want him to be the person. He needs to be the man right now, because I think he checks all the boxes.
Yeah, I did want to note in the scenes you're quoting, you also acknowledge in all of your projects that even in deep drama, even when there's tragedy, there also is humor, because we always have to bring some humor to it, and life is like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some people, if you watch Hand of God, I found a lot of humor in that. That's a very dark show.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would say that I'm twisted, but I do look for the humor, and I do think that that's reflective of life too. There's when like something crazy happens and somebody laughs, and it feels out of character, but you don't know where that came from. It doesn't feel like it fits the moment, but it was real and it happened. Or in retrospect, sometimes if you can tell the story 10 years after it happened and be hysterically laughing, but when it actually happened, it was one of the worst moments of your life. And I think that's one of the fascinating things about life. And I try to capture that in the storytelling and keep it alive.
Yeah, sometimes that's the only thing that gets you through. Yeah, Nicci?
Yeah.
No, it's Cheryl. Hey, I brought up two people, Leslie to ask her question, and then Brian Trusty, who, Ben, I got to tell you, he is a Black man. He loves Cross. He has been one of the biggest supporters on this app. Leslie, are you there to ask your question? And then we'll do Brian.
Yes, I am here, and I'm a little offended by you saying that Brian is the biggest fan for Cross, because that's just absolutely not true. I watched it multiple times and I enjoyed it, so I take offense to that. That being said, my question is, will Cross continue to work on the issues he began to address within himself towards the end of the show, with regards to the death of his wife? And remember, he couldn't really commit to the woman that he was in a relationship with. And I thought it was because of, the issues that he still was dealing with his wife. Will he continue that?
Yeah, he's definitely going to be continuing that. There's a conversation with L that really is about, and she's actually forcing the issue a little bit. That's about can they be together if he's a cop? And so we kind of get past the idea by the end of season 1. We basically hint that he's going to go ahead and start dealing with his issues with the, like, fully engage in getting over the grief situation with his wife. But there's some other issues where with his hero complex and his job and the toll that takes on his relationships and his family that become an issue in season 2. And then there will be another issue that rears its head, which is like, what do we consider justice? And him as a Black man in America watching the institutions break all the laws and the people be criminalized that shouldn't be. He really struggles with that during season 2.
Well, thank you for that. And before B. Trustee goes, one last question. His children, how will they deal with the trauma that they dealt with regards to what happened in the first season?
That I really tried to wave my hand at that in season 2, because partially also because of a big time jump. They don't look the same. I couldn't go in and do the time between between season 1 and season 2. There's a jump. So what we did was we try to reference it, but we didn't do it as if it was a continuation. So they have something else they have to deal with in season 2.
And I'm sure you're not gonna tell us what that is. And I not only got dragged by Leslie. People in the chat are like, Cross has many fans. Okay, everybody. Okay. Okay. B. Trustee, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How y'all doing? Hey, Ben, how you doing, man? Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Nicci.
Hello. Good, Brian.
So yeah, I really enjoyed the show. One of my favorite things was just how nuanced it was. Like, for example, the situation where they're not allowed to say Redskins anymore. They got to say, Commanders. And I guess this took place during the time from the transition from the Redskins to the Commanders. So it was the Washington football team at the time. Nice. Yes. Yeah, very nice touch. Very nice touch. My question is, well, by the way, I do like going on too. In our country, with a really bad moment in my life, actually was a very funny push moment. To silence our story. I can tell that story. That story almost happened 20 years ago. This pushback from, I'll just basically say, the right. Don't get caught. What does that look like for the future in the black storytellers, especially young black storytellers that have something to say? How do you think we have to move in that environment? And do you think this will last? Do you think is this the new normal, or is it something that we're just going to have to push through for right now?
Ooh, great question. Number one, I think there's going to be a counterintuitive push towards Black storytelling and storytelling of people that are underrepresented. I think there's going to be a counterintuitive push to that because of the backlash that's happening, societally speaking. And I know, and it's funny because the behavioral scientists will tell you that there's an innate desire that gets triggered when people feel like they're being kept from something. So the idea that you're going to start, limiting what's available in libraries and what stories are being told and what books and what instruction, all that's going to do is, in my opinion, is get people more interested in what it is. They're just going to have to find their way to it. And I'm not just talking about people of color, but I think white people as well. You're going to see that. Now, for our industry, I think there's already been impact being felt. And I think it was being felt even before this whole, recent wave with Trump getting in office, and even before Trump got in office, the things that we were seeing happen. I think that we find ourselves in cycles where when people of color and these, underrepresented communities start to find their voice and get their footing, it's all fine and dandy until people start to feel like, they have to, face their complicity in it. And they were really just trying to hey, we'll have a diversity thing, or we'll have a nice little show here, or we'll increase these amount of people, or whatever it is. But I still want to be dominant. I still want to be the decision maker. And I really was doing this sort of more performatively speaking, and I get to sleep at night and then and not feel guilty. And then we start getting some traction, and then people start to feel like maybe it's going to encroach on them, their privilege. And I say that across the board in terms of white folks. I feel like you start to see a backlash, and it's cyclical. And I feel like we're experiencing that right now, but we're experiencing it in the most intense way that I've had in my lifetime. And, I'm really curious to see what will be the response coming out of it. But I do think content wise, you're going to start to see people actually lean into it. If you look back at some of the times when we had surges where there was Black content that was being consumed and becoming really prominent, and Black stars really emerging on a way that really impacted not just our country, but globally, a lot of times on the heels of a conservative backlash.
Well, yeah, the bottom line is always going to matter too. And you have had so much success with Black content creators.
Yeah.
But my son's a historian and PhD. And he says with progress always comes pushback. That's American history, because many folks feel that progress is a zero-sum game. I know we have to let you go, but I always ask at the end of my Equal Time podcast, my guests, this question, which is, what is a question, Ben, I have not asked that I should have, because you have something really important that you want to say, that you need to say on the topic, and you want to leave with our listeners?
Wow, that's a great question. I think the thing that is, really pressing me and it's related to the question that Brian had. I think for me, it is that we all stay encouraged and activated with the understanding that we make a difference. And no matter what, no matter how dark it feels, that even one little email, one little message, one little attendance at a protest, one just showing up at work and making a difference or influencing, all of those things, they make a difference. And I'm feeling a lot of people feeling discouraged right now and feeling like, it's hopeless. But for me, but I just want to really encourage people to fight against that feeling and make their difference in the way that they can, no matter how big or how small.
And you lead by your example with your Blue Monday fellowships, the next generation.
Yeah, we're trying, but we get as much out of that as we put into it. We get exposed to new voices and new energy, and we've got so many former breakthrough artists who are now making their way through the business. I'm now, I call it my retirement plan.
Yeah, when they were heads of the studio, hey, who's that guy in the corner? Oh, he'll always have a job.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like that with the people I've met. Who's that woman knitting? And oh no, she'll always have a job. So yes. Cheryl and Cheryl, do you want to bring it on home?
I do.
Yeah, but thank you so much, Ben. It's been a pleasure, and I hope when I come up to California in about a month that we can meet.
Oh, I would love that, Mary Curtis. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody here for joining and for all the questions. It's been great.
Wonderful questions. Cheryl, take it away.
So a couple of things before Ben leaves. What he said about hiring people who look like him. When it came time for a producer for the bonus content of Cross, Ben only hit up 2 people. Kimberly Browning, a Black woman who was the producer of Quest to Ref, and me, who produced his second film. We've all remained friends. The only reason I got it was I had a valid passport at the time we were supposed to shoot in Toronto. And Kim's response was what mine would have been, which is, I'm glad she got it. And if she needs any help, because we do stick together in Hollywood. Ben, I don't know if you know this, but every day people would come up to me on the set of the bonus content of Cross and say, this is the first time in over 20 years that they saw themselves on set. And that really goes to what we as friends and as Black people have always believed in. And when Nicci said thank you for her insurance, she meant it, right?
Yeah. Hey, I feel that. I know that feeling.
There's something else. There's and I'm not sure you're aware, but there were a number of people on our set that have been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years that haven't been able to move up in their category within their union or guild. And that was a huge thing that like you gave us that like kind of carte blanche to like grab people and like bump them up and sign your name to bringing in new directors and, moving the art director up to a production designer. And also, enough days that I got my insurance and I was able to go to the doctor, which was really nice.
There are real life consequences, Ben, to what you do. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank you on behalf of the crew, of the bonus content of Cross. And with that, my friends, my people, I want to let you know also, Ben, on Spottable. When Cross first came out, I don't know if you saw, but the actual stars were only like 2.5 because, haters. And I came into all of the pods here on Spottable. And a lot of the people in this room got Prime Video, went on and helped to bump it up to 4 stars practically overnight. So I want to thank everybody in this room. Brian was one of them. There were a lot of people in this room who did.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate y'all so much because them people was trying to come for us.
Ooh, child.
He's talking about Black Lives Matter.
Ooh, it was a lot. Yep, Lisa, there are so many people in this room who actually grabbed profiles and everything, went on, did their verification, and helped bump Cross practically overnight from 2.5 stars up to 4. So thank you.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate that. It makes such a difference to have community. And Cheryl, thank you for being such a supporter all these years. It's can't thank you enough.
Ride or die. Ever since our days over at Sundance. No, you're not allowed to tell my Sundance stories. Okay. Okay. With that, I want to thank everybody here. Thank you, Ben Watkins, and to my aunt, Mary C. Curtis, the legendary journalist. She is not only my aunt, she is my godmother. There are not that many years between us. She was also like my sister growing up. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for being a board member of Women of Color Unite. Thank you for your voice in this day and age. Again, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Nicci Freeman. This really is her pod. I just come to it. So everybody have a wonderful time. Ben, I will be in touch. Thank you. Everybody look out for Cross Season 2, which will be dropping February 11th on Amazon Prime. I know we will all be watching. And of course, look out for The Greatest. With that, everybody have a blessed day. And I love my people, and especially my people in Black Hollywood. Thank you all for coming. Have a good one.
The Women of Color Unite podcast is hosted by Cheryl L. Bedford and Nicci Freeman, produced by Nwabata Nnani, and edited by Lauren Bonett. The music is by Oh Yeah, featuring Nayuta. Subscribe to the Women of Color Unite podcast to never miss an episode. If you want to submit questions or responses to this episode, you can send them to podcast@wokeunite.com. Find the show notes and transcripts for this podcast on our website at wokeunite.org, where you can also learn more about Women of Color Unite and sign up to become a member for free and sign up for our monthly newsletter. Please consider making a tax-deductible donation. Donations are what enable us to create amazing programs like our #StartWith8 career development program. If you're on social media, you can follow the podcast at WOCU Podcast, and you can follow Women of Color Unite at wokeunite.org.
Please stay tuned and join us for the next episode of the Women of Color Unite podcast, because we're telling it like it is.
Need rebels and troublemakers to stand out. Marginalized with voices making us so proud. For identity in the industry, we all shout. So many women empowered making their own route.
Ageism, racism, sexism.
Uncovered, they get together to form a force to prove the one that ain't gotta have a child to be seen as a mother. I'm saying,
all power
to the women of color. Yeah. It's just a salute to Cheryl Bedford, leading activist in the community. She's bridging the gap and bringing all women together to fight for real inclusion amongst all the diversities. Keep going.